And you're in tune with the Barry Foster Show. Remember, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, put them in the comments below. We're coming to you from the Ridge Florist Studios in beautiful Avon Park, right here in the city of Charm. Always glad to hear what you want to hear, what you want to guess, what you want to have us, and ideas you want to talk about. On the phone, we have John Larsen. You know, John, yesterday we were talking about the midterms and Donald Trump being able to get a lot of these provisions of the big, beautiful bill in action so that people can see what has had a chance to occur between Israel and Iraq, and Iran. We have seen that situation settle down quite quickly. I think the big, beautiful bill, once it begins to take effect, people are going to see the results of that very quickly as well.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's really important because you know yourself, it's like if you go out and you buy a car and it all sounded good when you were sitting in the dealership making the deal, but then how did the car drive once you put it on the road? Well, that's the way it is with this, not only the bill, but also the other things that Trump has done. Okay, what are the results of what they've done so far? Now we can look at illegal immigration, for instance. Last month, their crossings were what, zero. So you can say, oh my God, we've gone from like 50,000 a week or a month to zero. That's an amazing accomplishment. And he did it within a matter of a couple of months. And so that you can say that's a real victory. And certainly a lot of people like myself, where illegal immigration and border crossings were their number one issue, you know, you've got that fairly well under control. However, in the bill is a lot of money that's needed to continue building the wall and to add more agents along the border because they've been short of agents. And I think a lot of that was due to the Biden regime. Nobody wanted to become an agent on the border because they were nothing more than a babysitter and so on. So now that's not the case. So they need to hire more agents and they need to continue to build the wall, because if we don't get the wall built, the next time there's a Democrat in there, they're going to open the floodgates again.
That's exactly right. Well, Trump has deployed some troops into the area as kind of a force multiplier, kind of keeping kind of backing up the border patrol agents. And I think the crossings were down to zero or very close to zero from tens of thousands a day. And he'd let in 21 million people. And as president's pointed out, some of those are really bad guys. The focus now really has been on getting the bad guys like Venezuela opened up their prisons to let people come in. They have really centered in on getting out the really awful people, and the anti-ICE protests also have dropped to absolutely nothing. I mean, when was the last time you heard of a big anti-ICE protest going on?
Well, they're still going at it out in places like California and so on. Gavin Newsom, you know, he's adamant about the fact that he won't let local police coordinate or work with the ICE people, if you will. So California is still a hotbed, and they've got so many illegals out there anyway. They've got a built-in group, a massive group of people out there that are totally opposed to anything that's controlling the border or arresting bad illegals, if you will, and so on. So California is still going to be, although I think we still have some troops out there, and the fact that the court agreed with Trump that he could put the National Guard in there to quell the riots and control the situation that was going on, which was a big deal, because Newsom thought he was going to get that control back, and he didn't, and so on. So California is going to be a hotbed of that for a long time and whatnot. It's not going to totally go away, but I think across the rest of the country, yes, there's still, you know, governors or mayors or whatever they're saying, like Massachusetts and Chicago, that, you know, we're not going to cooperate, but they're still going in there and catching the bad guys. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, and Pam Bondi has already issued a warning that sanctuary cities are a thing of the past. That if you claim or do things like a sanctuary city, your federal funding is going to dry up. That the federal government has ways of dealing with that. So I think that in time, some of the people who were advocating for sanctuary cities, going to melt away, and only the really hardcore, the Minnesotas and the Californias, that they're, and maybe Chicago, they're going to remain kind of off by themselves.
Oh yeah, I agree, and so on. I think it's going to be very interesting to see, going forward what ramifications that has for these places that, and there's a large part of the population in some of these locales. Yes, you got rabid people, let's say up in Massachusetts and elsewhere, but there are still a number of people that are against what's going on. This is like an 80-20 issue, and the Democrats are siding with the 20% on these issues like illegal immigration and other ones that the majority of the country, like men and girls sports, school choice, those are like 70-30, 80-20 issues and whatnot. And the Democrats, in spite of that, the Democrats are siding with a low percentage part of those people.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another thing, John, is in addition to rounding up the bad people, a lot of the other illegals are leaving, self-deporting as the perks dry up. No more luxury hotel rooms, no more Medicaid, no more handouts. As those dry up, and Doge has done a wonderful job of helping to dry those things up. As those dry up, there's not the incentive for them to stay here in America.
Yes, well, that's correct. I think, and I thought I heard the other day, and I can't remember who was that said it, but it was a person from the administration said that so far they have seen about 1 million illegals self-deport because they know if they don't self-deport, eventually ICE is going to catch up with them. So I think you're already beginning to see some impetus of illegals saying, no, this isn't going to work out like I thought. The freebies aren't going to be there. So I think I'm going to take myself back to where I came from.
And the thing is that there's the offer of the free plane ticket home and $1,000, and $1,000 in a lot of these countries goes a long way. So the people who get out first get the best deals in getting resituated, reoriented, getting a place to live and a job before the flood comes. So you're going to see some of this. It does add to the deficit. It does add to the spending. And people have said to me that, well, Trump's not a conservative. Well, he's not. But he loves America, and he's trying to do what's best for America. And some of this, as you pointed out, because of the situation we were left in by the previous administration, some of this is going to cost some money to undo. But in the long run, it'll be a lot less expensive to have it done. And I think that history will treat Trump well in the things that he has pushed forward and things he's been allowed to do without impediment.
Yeah, the thing that I did not realize because I just have not ever paid that much attention to it was what the parliamentarian can do to these bills. I didn't realize that that person had that much power that they could negate some of the things that senators or representatives have put forward as part of that bill, that the parliamentarian can say no. Now, unfortunately, the one that's in there now is a female, and obviously, from what I've seen and read, that she is more a pro, I'll call it liberal when it comes to things, and also is a person that wants to negate a lot of the conservative issues that these guys have put in this bill. So I didn't realize the parliamentarian had as much power as they appear to have.
And neither did I. This is coming but again, I'm the workings of the House and the Senate was something I did not center in on, and I think that that's one thing that'll be taken care of, just like as we've just seen recently, the Supreme Court ruling against these uh, district federal judges and their judicial overreach in stopping Trump from. Well, I guess the issue right now is birthright citizenship, but they have ruled that the judges have exceeded their authority. In fact, I think it was Amy Coney Barrett that called it an epidemic of judicial overreach. I didn't realize there was 25 injunctions already, these universal injunctions trying to stop Trump from many of his executive orders, and those now are all going to come to a halt. And the president, I think, is going to have more of a green light to move ahead with his agenda.
I hope so. And the fact that he got a couple of really good rulings by the Supreme Court before they went on vacation was a good sign, because that gave him a couple of really big victories. That was one. Of course, the not allowing sexually explicit material in the schools unless the parents are notified was another one. So I think those were two of the positive things that the Supreme Court did before they went away for their 3 months of summer vacation. So they're not going to be there now, and there'll be no more rulings from them for the next couple of months.
No, but I think that this kind of clears the path, and Trump is like a good fullback. He when he sees daylight, he runs to daylight, and so I think you're going to see him move forward. And because they can't stop anything, he's going to move ahead, and he's going to be proven right again. And yesterday we talked a little bit about this. Torsten Slok, this Wall Street economist who works for Apollo Global Management, and he had just ripped Trump about these tariffs. He said it was gonna cause a depression, and of course the media seized on this now. And you have to kind of look for this article. He has said, "Well, the president may have outsmarted us all. This may be more strategic than previously thought." And I was reading that, I said, "Duh! Have you not watched what the president has done? I mean, what he did, and I thought it was brilliant. He kept the pressure on China, and now starting to making deals with all these other nations. I think there's like 18 nations still in talks with the president's people about making tariff deals, and their products are going to come in and supplant the Chinese products, not to mention the American products, the American goods and services. So it looks like the country could get as much as $400 billion in revenue, and so the we're not going to be suffering at all with high prices and inflation like we had under the previous administration. He's moving forward, and people who didn't like him before are beginning to see it.
Right. And I think the one thing that I am really recognizing too, I think the people that Trump has put in cabinet positions this time are absolutely amazing, the job that they're doing. And they all appear to be on one page, which makes everything go much better.
They're people of like-mindedness, and we've seen this under other administrations where people who did not like America were appointed these cabinet positions, and the then president didn't have to tell them what to do. They already knew what to do. They were of that mind. Now on the flip side, the 180-degree side, you have people who do love America and know how business works and have the ability to put put ideas and suggestions into play that will make it better for American businesses. And I'll tell you right now, I know that you like this and I like this, and I think one of the new series I have a couple of series. I have a racing series on the program. I have one that deals with businesses called Consumer and Business Update. One thing I want to do is start finding some of these American producers that produce stuff that people really need, like right now, and begin to call them and feature them and try to get the American economy going again.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it is. I think it's revving up. And I think now that once you get the big thing for me right now is to get this budget thing settled and behind us. Once they've got that done, now that's not the part that a lot of people, and again, this is part of the machinations that I didn't quite understand. They now will have the reconciliation bill after this. So this is not the end of the budgetary process. The reconciliation bill takes into a lot of nuances of specific issues and specific spending items that are not part of this bill and whatnot that they're going to be dealing with when this one is done. But once they get those done and get them in place, then I think the country can, I'll say it, financially settle down, and then businesses can begin to move forward. And the new construction of all these businesses that say they're coming back to the United States or are going to build in the United States for the first time, I think once you get some of that brick and mortar stuff going and people can see progress, like jobs being created, businesses being open, companies being started, and so on, rejuvenating in various parts of the country when this economic thing starts to kick in.
Yeah, and even in let's talk about, we're in Florida. The Florida budget has been finished. It took them a little while. Took them a little while longer than we'd hoped, but it took them. They finally got it done. They're cutting $3 billion out of the budget. They're looking at property tax relief. In fact, there's a big section of it that relieves tax on rentals to businesses. We talked with Bill Hurley of the Federation of Independent Business about that, and so Florida is making it more attractive for businesses to start here. I think a lot of other states are kind of doing the same thing. So it's a twofold process. But in the big beautiful bill, what's happening is the Senate passes a version, the House passes a version, then they get together to kind of hammer out the differences, as you pointed out. I think this time you're also going to see members of the Trump administration in there saying, you know what the president would like to see. If you guys could come to an agreement on this, and if you guys could come to an agreement on that, I'm sure he would be able to uh, exercise the art of the deal. He'll be able to find out what's important to them, help them get what they want, while the country gets what we want.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think you have to serve both sides because let's face it, all politicians are beholden to some. Number one, it's supposed to be their constituents, but that's not the only thing that they're beholden to. So, they've got to play both sides of the middle, if you will, and whatnot to get what they want, get what their constituents want, but then also, all right, my other senator, my other representative friend, he's got what he wants, so he needs my support, and so on. So they've got to work to get the best thing they can get done now. We're not going to get everything we want in this bill. There's no way that's going to happen because the Democrats are never going to allow it to happen, and so on. So get as much as you can this time. All right, then get more in the reconciliation part that comes up afterwards. And then once you've got that done, then start planning forward to the next budget bill and whatnot so that you know what it is you're going to go after and see if you can't get more. Because you're right, we've got to get as much done as we can while they have the majority, as thin as it is, and so on. Because we know for a fact that if the Democrats manage to get in at all, whether it's the House, because the House, if they get control of the House, the first words out of their mouth is going to be impeachment. And that's going to be the whole thing, just like they did in the first term. They're going to tie Trump up with an impeachment process, and nothing is going to get done of any consequence. So that's the sad part of what the Democratic Party is all about.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. One thing that you mentioned that I want to kind of jump back to is you talked about the people that he has appointed to cabinet positions and how well they've done. And one thing that I really don't see on the mainstream media as much as we should, is the work that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been doing with what they call the MAHA, Make American Healthy Again movement, because he has been just really successful in getting Nestle, ConAgra, what is Kraft Heinz, General Mills. There's a bunch of them getting the synthetic food dyes out of the food, which is the beginning of the start of the process to get things narrowed back down again. And he's done just a wonderful job with that.
Yes, he has, and I'll tell you what, I'll give him credit because he's been called before the House and the Senate for hearings and whatnot because why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? But he has stuck to his guns, and he went in and literally fired everybody that was in some of those agencies, if you will, for the health department and so on. So he got rid of, I think, a lot of bad wood in there that were just radical people, and probably a lot of them were also beholden to, like you said, either to the drug industry or the food industry. And he's fighting that battle and making good progress. So I think people don't recognize it, but it is so very. I've been in crowds lately of thousands of people, okay, thousands of people. And I cannot tell you, and I'm not saying this sparingly against anybody because I know there's issues involved, but I can't tell you how many severely overweight people that I have seen and so on. And that leads to so many medical issues that Robert Kennedy's talking about. And I think he sets a fine example because for someone that's, I think he's 71 or something like that, for the physical fitness part of it, that he is, how fit he is, and how he recommends physical exercise. I hope somewhere along the line he goes after what the schools are doing as far as not a lot of schools cut out any physical therapy they used to have or PT. They went outside, you played dodgeball, you played whatever, kickball. They don't do that anymore. Kids sit in their classroom all day with their iPads. And so kids, they eat the school lunch, which certainly is not very nourishing and not very probably conductive for good health and so on. So I'm hoping going after the school lunches and then also getting schools to enact again some physical activity in a gym or outside so kids get to start moving around and start, because I see a lot of young children, I'm talking 2 and 3 years old, that are well on their way to being overweight.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm sure you on Facebook you've seen the meme, and I've seen different pictures, but they're basically the same. Here's Miami Beach in the middle '70s. What do you see that's different? And the answer is no overweight people. There was the people were just not heavy, and then they showed pictures of what used to be your physical exercise. The kids that would be out there doing the monkey bars and climbing walls and doing things, and the boys are in pretty darn good shape, and it's because, like you say, they went out and their physical activity, their PE, physical education, was going out and playing dodgeball and touch football and baseball and all these other things where you were required to get up and run and do things, so it's exercise and it's diet. And there have been charges for years that the big food companies have been writing the legislation and letting people pass it. And RFK Jr. has come in and said, we're not going to do this anymore. In fact, apparently, there's a 5-year cycle where they have a committee that goes in and takes a look at how the food is made, what's good food, what's bad food, what's being allowed to be put in, what's not being allowed to be put in. Well, that 5-year cycle is up, and RFK is appointing a new committee that will go in and look through all of this. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but it may be something that's full chromatic, that may be pivotal to changing the way Americans eat food and maybe getting us back on a healthy track again.
Oh, I think so. And I think he sets a fine example and whatnot. And like I said, in the hearings that he's been part of, and they've called him out a lot, I mean, he's been very stern and very straightforward with his commitment to doing what he's doing and try to explain to these. Some of them are absolute knuckleheads, okay? But try to explain to them, what nutrition and good health will mean for these people's life going forward. Because the situations like childhood diabetes, for instance, is a really strong situation because kids are literally eating sugary cereal and drinking soda pop all day or some kind of fruit drink that's got 25 grams of sugar in it and so on. So he's got to, and that involves also educating the parents. The parents need to understand, look, it's not only your health that we're concerned about, but it's the health of your children. So somehow I hope he can get this message out, either through the school systems or through the parents so they can understand what good health means to you and your children going forward.
And there's so many things, so many chemicals which are disallowed in other countries. I mean, even disallowed in Canada, but in Europe and in Asia, that you cannot. They make different versions. I remember seeing one picture of Fruit Loops, that the American version and the Canadian version. They said, "Have you noticed that the colors in America are so much brighter because they use all these, uh, you know, these food dyes, which may or may not be good for you." In Canada, they have to use fruit dyes that are extracted from different fruits and vegetables to change the colors. They're not as bright, but they're a lot better for you. So if they're already making these products, and some of these products like are going to be 26 and 27 there, I think they're trying to move things out as far as possible so that when the Trump administration goes and RFK goes, maybe they won't have to do, they can go back to what they're doing before. But who in the world would want such bad things for a populace is beyond me.
I absolutely agree. Like I said, it sounds like when you, and I've been able to watch and listen to some of these hearings on radio as I've been driving around. And when you listen to some of this stuff and how some of these, and it's almost mostly all Democrats, but when they get in there, they ask some of the stupidest questions you ever heard in your life, which absolutely have nothing to do. They're more a personality attack than they are a factual investigation as to, why is 1 and 1, equals 2, that kind of thing. No, they want to go after the personnel things to try and make you personally look bad. And so they craft their questions in the form of, well, depending on how you answer it, you may or may not look like you know what you're talking about. And that's what's really sickening about the whole thing.
But when you don't have any logical arguments, you have what they call the ad hominem attack, and where you don't center in on the subject, you center in on the person, and that you're a terrible person, therefore you can't be right about anything. And so you're exactly right. They go after the person and try to make you look like, well, you're a bad person, so we shouldn't pay any attention to anything you say. And even bad people are right about things sometimes, people who have a terrible bedside manner. So it's going to be, I'm hoping, as you pointed out yesterday about the 80-20 issues, it's hard to argue against healthy food.
Well, I know it's hard to argue, but they do.
Yes.
This is the thing that's unbelievable. It's like it's staring you in the face, and everything that you see is telling you no, but you stand out there and say, oh no, the answer to this is yes, and so on. So it's just, I don't know how anybody, number one, with a straight face and any sense of knowledge or expertise at all would be able to sit there and say and do some of the things that they say and do, and knowing that it's all wrong, and the bulk of the American people are not in favor of this issue, and you sit there and you hem and haw, but you won't even say, when we've got a Supreme Court justice that couldn't answer the question, what is a female? You know that we've got a major problem.
And apparently she doesn't know what a constitution is either. She got slapped down by Amy Coney Barrett in terms of some of the things that she was saying about the Constitution, and when they came up with this issue about limiting the injunctions by federal judges. So yeah, and that's, I think, why people are transitioning away from mainstream media, terrestrial media, normal TV and radio, and going more to podcasts, because then you can find more unvarnished information and you can make up your decisions for yourself. In fact, the other day I was at a function. Sandra was speaking on a seminar they were having on herbal teas and natural teas. And a lady stopped me and says, Barry, we miss you so much on the radio. My husband misses you every day. I said, well, I have good news. I've moved the show over now to the internet. She says, really? He listens to that all the time. So I gave her the card. So he'll be listening to this program as well. And so people are moving away from what's on network TV and network radio to the internet, where they can find more real unvarnished information.
Well, that's literally what I've done, spending a lot of time on the road, and I've got Sirius XM, but I can pick up Patriot Radio, which is almost exclusively made up of podcasters. And so I get a lot of what I think is really good information by listening to, podcasters as I'm driving along. So I think that really bears it out as far as I'm concerned. You're right. I think, let's face it, the major networks are beholden to the people that buy ads and their shareholders. Podcasters are maybe standalone, one person, running a podcast and so on. So they're not beholden to anybody or any corporation or any business for advertising. They may have advertisers, but most of them are, if they don't have advertisers, they freelance and whatnot. But if they have advertisers, the advertisers know ahead of time what they're getting in for. Let's say when you've got a Joe Rogan as one of the people that you're sponsoring, okay, you know what you're going to get with a guy like Joe Rogan, and so on. So that's the beauty of it. And you're right; they can give you the unvarnished facts without being beholden to somebody or some corporation.
Well, John, I'm trying, and I think if not in July, maybe by August, we're going to see if we can't start going live. So maybe we'll end up on Patriot Radio as well with our own podcast, talking about the national issues and the Florida issues, getting this information to people. And I really appreciate all the help that you give us, and getting on a couple of times a week. Now you're headed back into Florida now.
Yes, and I got to say, I don't know if I mentioned this to you the last time we talked or not, but on Father's Day, I went to the races, okay, up in Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if I told you this story, but it was something that's never happened to me in 60 or 65 years of going to the races. I went up to the ticket window and stood behind this fellow, and he turned around and he gave me a ticket. He said, "Happy Father's Day."
Oh,
It was a $25 ticket, and he bought my ticket unbeknownst to me.
well,
I couldn't believe it. That was the first time something like that ever happened.
well, listen. Next time you go to the races, you may have to find a nice older fellow and give him a ticket.
Absolutely, but that was so apropos when he turned around and said "Happy Father's Day."
Oh, that was so cool, and it was a good race. So, did you have a good racing loop up there? Did you get a chance to go to many tracks?
Oh well, I tell you what, I went to 4 races and I got rained out 4 times. So that's
Oh,
when I talk about rain, that's what I'm talking about.
that's the deep disappointment. Well, John, will be looking forward to having you back in the studios again and talking about, well, the big beautiful bill for one thing, but the Maha movement and some of the things that have happened in the Sunshine State. There'll be new laws will go into effect on July the 1st, and we'll talk about some of those things as well as the budget for the Sunshine State, and maybe we'll get some made in America companies to phone us in, and we'll do some of those Made in America programs as well.
We'll have to talk about Alligator Alley too.
Oh, Alligator Alcatraz. Yes.
Alligator Alcatraz,
Yes,
yes.
that is in the works now. There's a class action suit trying to stop it. We'll see how far that goes. But for the folks who don't know, is what they're going to do is uh, it was the very cold San Francisco Bay that kept the prisoners in at Alcatraz. This time they want to put it in the middle of the Everglades and have their guards be rattlesnakes and alligators and boa constrictors to keep them in the prison where it's safe. So we'll see how that plays out. That looks like it could be the thing of legends, Sean.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you, I saw a good interview done with Ron DeSantis down there, and that thing is almost ready to go right now. That's how quickly they put it up.
I think there's a fort down there. There's an old fort that they're reconverting, as they did with Alcatraz. They're reconverting, and they're going to put only the worst of the worst down there. So by the time you get back, we'll have plenty to talk about there. Now, don't go away. Don't go away. You've been listening to the Barry Foster Show from the Ridge Floor Studios in beautiful Avon Park, Florida. Any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, please put them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe as we move forward to 1,000. So we'll be back again soon with another program, and we'll see you next time.